Fire Emblem. Engage!
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining me one last time on this Fire Emblem Engage Pacifist playthrough. Today, we aim to defeat this game's final boss, the Fell Dragon Sombron. Only Sombron, if at all possible. This goal comes with a hefty price tag. We have spent a total of 48,500 gold on 4 forged weapons, 7 second seals, 5 staves, 46 tonics, and a slim lance. Skill inheritance has cost a total of 13,600 SP, of which 4,100 came from the Ancient Well. To unlock bond levels and shuffle our weapon engravings, we have spent 13,180 bond fragments. Only 1,334 remain. 32 silver ingots have been consumed, 26 of which went toward a Brave Axe +5. Finally, Mauvier has used a Speedwing. This fight will challenge us like nothing else has.
Where to?
This chapter is comprised of 2 phases. In the first phase, Sombron is in his relatively weak humanoid form. Defeating him is not difficult on its own. The puzzle of the first phase is how to position our units for the second phase. The Entrap Staff is not actually required here. It just makes solving that positional puzzle simpler. Once we defeat Tiny Sombron and trigger the second phase of the fight, all of our units will be moved. Where they get moved to is determined by their positions at the end of the first phase. The exact way this works is a bit complex. That complexity increases if we move units towards Sombron's initial position. I found it easier to just use the Entrap Staff, bring along some fracture staves to reroll random numbers, simplify the puzzle, and save myself some time in real life. Ivy has not equipped an Emblem ring.
I'll do my best.
Instead, she will be the target of Alear's Engage Plus ability. This gives her access to Dragon's Fist, a magical brave weapon that is stronger and lighter than Nova. It makes quick work of a debuffed Sombron, since it is also effective against fell dragons. Its base might is 10, but we have augmented that up to 12. Emblem weapon augmentation is not something that has come up before, but the game gives us the resources to make this particular upgrade for free.
Shall we dance?
Kagetsu is just getting warmed up here. He appreciates the upcoming level.
Don't worry.
Vale has once again equipped Emblem Byleth. Her ability to boost strength, magic, and speed at the same time will be crucial once Sombron stops playing around. Okay. This music has been fun and all, but I think we can do better.
Right away.
All right! That's more like it. The second phase of the battle has arrived, and with it, a slight problem. Sombron is now invincible. In order to damage his draconic form, we must defeat one of the 4 corrupted enemies with dark emblems. This Berserker is the easiest target. This kill accomplishes 2 things. First, it lowers Sombron's damage reduction from 100% to 85%. Second, since Alear did the honors, it activates the Attune skill and grants Ivy an absolute boatload of stats. The normal way to approach this fight is to continue defeating dark emblems until Somniel has lost his incredible damage reduction. However, that requires additional kills. Instead, we will muscle through Sombron's barrier the old-fashioned way, starting with this Lodestar Rush from Diamant. He can barely deal damage thanks to the 23 might on the S-rank sword, George. After Diamant applies Draconic Hex, base Wolf Knight Cadet can engage with Roy and start adding layers of poison. We haven't seen her in action since Chapter 13.
Bring it on!
Saphir breaks out our not-so-secret weapon, a fully forged, Sigurd-engraved Brave Axe. Our most effective method of increasing damage is to multiply it, by 4 in this case. Every source of attack power on Saphir pulls quadruple duty.
Let's do this!
Pandreo brandishes our actual secret weapon, the Fracture Staff. Normal weapons cannot break Sonbron, but he is not immune to the status itself. That means we can line Kagetsu up to take advantage of Merciless, which deals 50% extra damage to broken foes. Saphir dealt 12 damage with her attack. Kagetsu hits for 32. The break status wears off after combat, so Hortensia has to reapply it. We will be doing this a lot over the course of the battle, and unfortunately, that means staff accuracy is a recurring source of unreliability. Where possible, our staffers have inherited Staff Mastery 2 and Divine Pulse to mitigate this. I also remembered my magic and dex tonics. Better late than never. Ivy takes the 6th magic boost from Attuned and swoops in to finish off Sombron's first health bar, with not a single action to spare this turn. 1 down, 3 to go. That absolute barrage of stimuli was the result of Sombron's Whirling Death attack. It can damage most of our units, but it's not strong enough to kill anyone that we put within its range. Veil kicks off turn 3 with another massive Instruct. This gives us more than just speed and attack power.
I won't flinch.
The magic and dex boosts also translate to additional staff accuracy for those within its radius. Panette has been brought low, so before she can add another poison stack, Diamant has to heal her. He canters next to Rosado, who has become a martial master for its combination of staff access and guaranteed bonded shield activation. With Diamant occupied, Lyndon now applies Draconic Hex. By reclassing into General, he has gained both bulk and the ability to deal respectable chip damage. Afterward, he canters left so that Goldmary can equip him with a weapon that boosts his crit avoid. Goldmary herself is so bulky that she's safe even if she does eat a crit on the enemy phase. With the debuffs in place, it's time to break a leg. Our squishy staffers have less room to roam this turn, now that enemies are advancing from all directions. Sombron's lackeys place a strict timer on this fight, and we have to play aggressively to win before they start forcing kills. Admittedly, the 6% crit was not part of the plan. I want to demonstrate that this clear does not rely on crits, so to compensate, Mauvier holds back. The crit gains 17 damage, and the lack of fracture loses only 12, but the number of combats ends up matching that of a crit-free universe. As you can see, Kagetsu is unfazed by the counterattack. For more consistency, that is, a lower crit rate, I could have left Kagetsu support rank with Seedall at C. I didn't realize the extra 3 crit from the B support would cause me to redo recordings. Alear actually gets to do some damage to Sombron. In a critless world, it matters. Additionally, Alear acts as a conduit for our super duper Brave Axe, allowing Saphir to keep up the pressure afterward. Using Fracture is also an option, but it has a decent chance to miss. Once again, Ivy is the one to deplete a health bar. She gains a level from this, and with it, a point of magic. Every little bit counts. That's good progress, but our battered party is in need of a great sacrifice. If we can just find a safe space for Hortensia to... I think I found it. To minimize combat on this enemy phase, we avoid the enemies on the right and defend on the left. Despite the crit chance on Goldmary, she is completely safe. Diamant will survive 2 wyverns thanks to Bonded Shield. And now, rising to the occasion to deliver the most draconic of hexes, behold, the Linden Loop! That is quite the tough act to follow, but Panette has the answer. With this strike, the final layer of poison seeps in. By the way, did you know that Override has a 10% chance to break when performed by an armored unit? Linden actually pulled it off, which is pretty funny. This is the final turn of the run.
I can do more.
We have to double our damage output to finish off Sunbrun's last 2 health bars, and that requires maximizing Kagetsu's potential. He has to be merciless for us to show mercy, so everyone with a Fracture Staff is on deck. We lead with Rosado because we want to get the least reliable outcomes out of the way first. That gives us more chances to rewind and try different permutations of Staffers in the event of a miss. Thankfully, Rosado locks it in here. Vale has not performed an Instruct this turn. She's waiting until the 11th hour to provide a Goddess stance when it matters most. That means several of our Fracture casters are down 3 magic and 3 dex compared to last turn. They'll have to make do without it. The miss here is a minor setback, but it's better to see that now rather than the past 2 turns. Mauvier is prepared to step in and stop holding back. Okay, that's a bit concerning. Mauvier had our highest hit rate.
I can still do this.
Sure? I mean, go ahead. You know, I called World Tree a mixed bag earlier, but it sure came in clutch. That skill rolls an activation check before a staff rolls to hit, so Hortensia was able to push the RNG around and find some more agreeable numbers. The only other way we could have rerolled the RNG by that point was by attacking with Goldmary. Alear has to use her action to trade away Kagetsu's Brave Axe after he finishes attacking, so her action is not flexible. Alear is fresh out of engage attacks, but she can effectively do more damage with Fracture. If it hits, Severe gets to be merciless herself, resulting in 8 extra damage. If it misses, that's bad, but we have a small chance to make up the difference with Goldmary and chain attacks. In this case, guided contingency required her to step in.
I'm ready.
That is the end. With 3 kills. Alrighty, that's a wrap. All that's left to do now is let the turn counts and unit records scroll by. While we're here, I'd like to do some shoutouts, answer a few questions, and just talk about the run. First off, I had a few people help me out with the presentation, especially on the thumbnails. The art of Alear piggybacking on Vander was a commission drawn by Edelnath, I think is how it's pronounced. And then the rest of the thumbnail design, the backgrounds, fonts, regional logos, all of that was put together by my good friend Hughes. The little staff accuracy graphics displaying true hit after skills were made by Sheila, another good friend. Thank you all for making this run look that much more special. I drew gameplay inspiration from many members of the Fire Emblem Efficiency Discord. Some was through watching their videos, some was through direct conversation. Special shout out to XS, who I already thanked for removing a kill from Chapter 13. He also helped me work through the endgame combat calculations, of which there were many. Thank you for pushing me not to settle. Speaking of the myriad of endgame calculations, there's a spreadsheet with all of that. Those of you who know me or have looked at my other playthroughs probably saw that coming. Keeping track of why certain damage values are going up and down during that fight can be difficult, with all of the skill icons blasting and ringing like phone notifications. Hopefully the spreadsheet helps clarify things if you're curious. And if you are extra super special curious, I am also sharing the master spreadsheet I use for planning and progress tracking. I have been including some of the crucial info in the video descriptions, but this is everything. Experience, promotions, staves, kills, gold, ore, bond fragments, SP, even every single action in Chapter 17. It's all there. Links are in the description. After all is said and done, we have completed Engage Hard Mode with 104 kills. I do consider this to be the kill floor, and I am very happy to have reached it. That said, I should address a technicality here. Even while Sombron's full barrier is up, chain attacks can still deal 2 damage at 30% accuracy. So, if you are very determined, you can save a kill in endgame by landing 200 chain attacks, which would require attempting 667 of them on average. I do not consider this to be practical in a hard mode setting, but it's been done on maddening mode. If you want to see how that works, check out TG's Pacifist run, link in the description. His gameplay philosophy does not care nearly as much about reliability, but that's a valid way to play. Funnily enough, he and I might have been playing through our Pacifist runs at the same time. His video was published in early July of 2023, and I worked on gameplay from May to late July that same year. We both came up with the idea independently, and I think that's pretty neat. And yes, that means it's been over 2 years since I started this thing. I much prefer to create with care rather than speed. I hope you have enjoyed the result. And hey, would you look at that? Mercy was one of the MVPs of the final chapter. Rather fitting, don't you think? This is the part where we get to see the endings and battle records of each unit. For whatever reason, the game seems to only count combats that occur on player phase. A battle is when a unit initiates combat, and a win is when a unit reduces any health bar to 0. Neither of these fits my definition of a kill, so I have added the kill counts on screen. As a reminder, I require a unit to both reduce an enemy's HP to 0 and remove them from the map, so for my purposes, only the final HP bar counts. I do have a small number of questions that viewers have asked about the run, so let's get into that. Sharur asks if there was any particular reason for picking female Alear. This one's kind of funny. The reason I picked female Alear here was because I picked female Byleth in my 3 Houses Pacifist playthrough. It's almost like I'm carrying the same spirit of mercy into a new game. So, in a roundabout way, the answer to your question is Sylvain. I hope you're happy with that. Overrated Sage asks, were there any characters that really surprised you with how they performed, or didn't, within the context of this run? I was pleasantly surprised to see Diamant become a mainstay. Me too. So yeah, let's talk characters. First off, I am a Diamant enjoyer. I like the guy. So when I realized that he could fill a long-term role in the roster, I was quite happy. Now, granted, a lot of what he did was a function of the Griffin Knight class, which is excellent, but he also has these little bonuses here and there. His stats are usually good enough to perform odd jobs, he supports both Kiketsu and Ivy, he recruits Saphir, and he can wield George the Sword, while maintaining staff access. It's a lot of useful role compression. I would say that, given my exposure to various LTCs, most units performed how I expected them to, so a majority of the cast was useful when they joined and less useful later. Meanwhile, Ivy and Kagetsu were absolute rock stars that carried the team on their backs. They never stopped. Outside of the curious case of Diamant, I think there are two other characters that surprised me. One was Rosado, but not in a good way. He was this sort of best of the rest type character that could do things, but only because there was no one better, or because the better choices were all busy. He really squeaked by in Chapter 17, and in Endgame, he was our least accurate Fracture user. The other surprise was, okay, show of hands, who predicted base Wolf Knight Panette in the Endgame? I did not raise my hand just now. Panette is usually deployed to wield axes and kill things, which was a role already occupied by the much faster Kagetsu. But then I needed someone to poison Sombron, and they needed to hit an attack benchmark, and then Panette waved at me like, "'Tis I!" And you saw the results. Okay, Crash Boom Bang asks, what skills do you think you would have used if you were more liberal with accepting Ancient Well book drops? And this is an interesting question because half the time the limiting factor on skills wasn't SP, it was bond fragments. But first I should back up and explain how I actually used SP books. I have already talked about the guaranteed novice books that grant 100 SP each, but 3-star well drops also have a 50% chance of dropping a 500 SP adept book, and a 10% chance of dropping a 1000 SP expert book. I needed 3000 SP from non-guaranteed sources, and I calculated that I had a 98.64% chance of getting that by endgame, so I allowed myself to use that much. If I had allowed more, I could have considered promoting a unit other than Diamant into a Cantor Griffin, not that I would have wanted to. Alear could have gained Staff Mastery 2 earlier. Ivy and Kagetsu might have appreciated some damage boosting skills so that other resources could be conserved, and I could probably give Draconic Hex to someone besides Linden to free him up for other jobs. But honestly, I think I would need more bond fragments before the SP would start making a huge impact. Crash also asks how I got so good at singing, which is a very flattering question that I am happy to answer. I am not a trained singer, and by that I mean I have not taken choir classes or studied under an instructor. However, I have been singing most of my life at church and during car rides. My parents would often play CDs in the car, and I picked up a few things by imitating professionals, or at least harmonizing with them. And now that I live on my own, that's still true. I effectively practice by singing along with music that I enjoy, and praise God that there is so much music to enjoy in the world. Let me tell you, I have been looking forward to uploading this video for months because of those harmonies I did. Singing along to a Xenoblade track has been a dream come true, even in an amateur setting like this. It was extremely difficult to sound anywhere near as good as the actual singer, and it's easy to find mistakes if you listen for them, but part of this process was not being overly self-critical. Also, adding reverb. Reverb does a lot. Lastly, no one asked, but I'm going to talk about my favorite chapters. To me, a chapter is exceptional if it both poses a challenge and causes me to make lots of original decisions. That means most of the early game and most warp skips are on the low to middle end of my personal ranking. They're not bad, they're just less unique. Chapter 7 was one I completed with 2 kills during the practice run, and then I optimized it down to 1 kill after a lot of trial and error. I really enjoyed figuring out how to manipulate enemy aggro for 4 straight turns. Chapter 13 was another big challenge where I optimized a kill out of the practice run, this time with help. Figuring out all of the staff usage and making progress through the fog to fight the bosses and obtain the rescue staff was very satisfying. Chapter 15 tends to be one of my favorites in any challenge run, and using Citrine with Byleth to break a door at 4 range was fun. That chapter also featured rather unique usage of the Ike and Corrin emblems. Given the huge amount of work I had to invest into Chapter 17, I doubt anyone is surprised that it makes my list of favorites. The clear definitely gets chaotic in the last few turns, but Being able to exist on that map for 14 turns without any unnecessary kills is an achievement I am proud of. Plus, Diamant got to have a clutch moment at the end. Chapter 19 was another fun exercise in aggro manipulation, and the boss kills were interesting to execute. 22, of course, is always a highlight chapter. Ivy and Kagetsu get to roam free and gobble up tons of EXP. Funnily enough, I didn't plan out most of the combat benchmarks ahead of time. Kagetsu naturally ended up with the stats he needed, and Ivy only required a few boosters. And last but most certainly not least, I am very proud of my endgame clear. It required a really wonky looking set of class changes, but those are precisely the kind of original decisions I like to find. The clear itself uses a strategy that few people have ever gone for, I imagine. And if it wasn't already obvious, I love the irony that comes from the Merciless skill being the key to ultimate mercy. Plus, I got to sing at the top of my lungs. Let me know what your own favorite chapters were in the comments. I'd love to hear your reasons. That concludes my little wrap-up here. Thank you for joining me one last time on this Fire Emblem Engage hard mode Pacifist playthrough. You've been a wonderful audience. God bless you all. Take excellent care of yourselves. Okay?